Hey, Colin, do you know what I love doing?
What?
Shitting my own pants.
That is known about you. You do love to fill the old trousers.
There's a club up in town that can help you do that as well. But we're not gonna talk about that club today. Hello, people, and welcome to the Evil G Studios' first edition of the history of a certain type of game. And
That
today
really rolls off the tongue.
it
There.
does. No, we'll have to think of a better title. We'll come up with one before the end of this video. But today we're going to talk about the history of horror games and how it all started and how it's evolved and basically where we think it's going to end up in the future. Because horror games are a big thing.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. And
Especially at the minute.
yeah, me and yourself, Colin, we're two big fans of the old horror genre.
I do, yeah. I love myself some horror games, even though sometimes I don't like it, but I like it anyway.
That's one of those. It's a love-hate relationship with horror games. It really is. I know what you mean. But this is the whole thing. Everyone's obviously, when you say the word horror game, first thing that comes to your mind is Resident
Silent
Hill. Silent Hill and Resident Evil. But believe it or not, it started like way before that. Way before that. Back in 1982, actually. That's when it all started.
Jeez.
On the home PCs, a game called 3D Monster Maze.
So it's hard to fathom what a horror game would look like
Yeah.
from back then.
Yeah, I think it was literally all keyboard art. I'm not even trying to be funny, but I think it was literally keyboard art made up your maze. And the idea was that you were dropped into this maze, and there was a T-Rex in the maze as well for some reason, and you just had to get out before the T-Rex gobbled you up.
How did he get in there?
Whoever came up with this twisted game dropped you and a T-Rex into this maze. But 3D Monster Maze in 1982, and this was like the first instance ever of a horror game because it was basically tense gameplay. Like the longer you were in the maze, the T-Rex would get smarter, and you'd get written signals that the T-Rex is closer, the T-Rex smells you, and you'd be like, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And then it wasn't like proper what you'd call like free movement these days. It was like 4-directional movement, if you know what I mean.
Alright, so was that like you choose to move north,
Yeah.
and then you choose to move north again,
Yeah.
then east?
Grid-based movement, I guess, is the way I put
Yeah.
it. So you might like turn your head, which is like a 90-degree turn, and boom, the T-Rex is there in your face. And I'm pretty sure it done the wee do 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 do.
And that was all displayed in ASCII art?
I believe so. We'll obviously get some nice footage, which hopefully people are watching as we're talking about this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, this is a video
I
documentary.
forgot this was a video.
We're doing well. Our first one. But believe it or not, that was the whole idea of the horror game, but it didn't really pick up again. It sort of died down for almost 5 years. In 1987, War of the Dead was released.
I have never heard of this.
No, I had never heard of it either, but it was like a side-scrolling shooter, and it was literally you could only move forward and backwards, and you had only so much ammunition, and this is where the idea of the survival horror in this came from.
What was this on?
I believe home consoles or the home PCs as well.
Okay.
This was not really on a console or anything. Consoles hadn't really taken off at this point. I mean, you're talking mid-80s. There wasn't...
Well, you would have had the Atari 2600 would have been
I
up
suppose
and
that-
running by then,
Yeah, that's
and the NES
Would that have been?
maybe soon. I'm not sure.
I believe the NES is what we're leading up to, but War of the Dead, side-scrolling shooter, limited ammo, and so many enemies on screen, so you had to sort of fight or flight at times, which was obviously going to lead up to other later titles. But 1989 is the big one. The NES, Sweet Home. And it's not a game maybe a lot of people have heard of, but it was based on a Japanese horror movie.
Oh yeah, just off track. 85 was NES.
85 was NES, thank you very much. There you go, 4 years after release then, Sweet Home was released on the NES. And
So what? And who made that?
that was Capcom.
Oh,
Oh, indeed. So, Sweet Home, there was no real combat in it. It was just, you were 6 people in a haunted house, and you had to try and escape, which is kind of the premise of the movie as well. But you would obviously walk around this house, there would be sort of lights flickering off, and you would have to make a quick decision. If you didn't make a decision in time, you lost one of your characters to the darkness and things like that.
so permadeath.
But complete permadeath. Once all 6 characters were dead, game was over and you had to start again. I don't even think you could save back then. It was like a one run, you had to get through it. But this was the whole idea, was this, if you don't watch your back, you're going to die.
Yeah,
Almost trial and error, I guess. Is that what you would call it? But there was like umpteen endings as well.
yeah. It sounds very Do you remember? I don't know if this is on your list, but the like Day of the Tentacle and Maniac Mansion.
Oh yes, Maniac Mansion.
So
Yep.
that's the sort of thing where you had the party of characters and they could all die in different ways.
That was a sort of point and click type game, wasn't it? That was from the guys that made
Yeah.
Monkey Island, or was they would go on to make Monkey Island? I think.
I think this was this one of the LucasArts ones?
Mm-hmm.
I think Tim Schafer maybe.
Yep, I believe so. But yeah, Sweet Home was obviously going to be a big influence on obviously Capcom made this, so they were obviously going to use this towards future games.
Yeah.
shall we say.
So this was based on a film, a Japanese film,
A Japanese horror movie, yeah.
and the story revolves around 5 filmmakers
Mm-hmm.
exploring an old mansion.
Mm.
This is very sort of, I don't know, like the likes of The Ring.
Mm.
I think follows that sort of stuff as well. With it's always about documentary makers or filmmakers getting into this sort of stuff.
It's not a, I won't say a Japanese cliche, but it's a thing that they enjoy following. The idea of a filmmaker and this creepy stuff happening to them as they try and make a film.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, we had the first 3D horror game, 1992, Alone in the Dark.
Well, 3D.
Well, yeah. It's sort of
I guess you could call it that.
pseudo 3D.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people think this is the very first survival horror game,
A lot of people would have put that down, yeah.
which obviously not, since you just
Yep.
named another 2.
Oh, we have proved them wrong. Sorry, folks. Sorry to dash all your dreams. But 1992, Alone in the Dark. It was not a game I ever actually played, because I don't think it was on home consoles.
I played it for about 5 minutes because by the time I had played it was well after it had come out, and it's,
It
hasn't aged well.
It hasn't aged well. I've obviously seen it being played, and it looks very awkward to control.
Yeah, I remember just getting to some sort of flying creature and not being able to kill it because of the awkward controls.
Hopefully we can find some footage of that flying creature. And then a couple of years later, a game I actually did play, and I remember playing it very well, is a game called D.
I've heard of D.
D is a very strange game, if you can call it a game.
I vividly remember, we're probably jumping forward, but I remember D3 on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I think there was a third one that did come out around that time.
So what kind of game was D?
D was literally a full motion cutscene where you had to just hit buttons at the right time and not die.
Oh, so like Dragon Slayer?
Kind of like that, yeah. But then there was puzzles to solve as well. But the whole game only you had 2 hours to beat the game.
Okay, like,
Real time 2 hours.
and if you didn't beat it in 2 hours, you died?
You died, yeah.
Jesus.
And it actually had some very sort of, for 1995, it had some very taboo subjects in it.
Such as?
Cannibalism,
Okay.
incest.
Like, what?
Yeah, so very quickly, the story behind D was that you played this. I can't remember the nurse's name you played, but she had entered this hospital where there'd been a massacre, and her father's the blame of this. And it turns out he's actually some type of mad vampire lord, and he's only figured this out because he's blocked his memories for centuries. And to get the pure offspring, he needs his daughter, and he needs to mate with his daughter.
Oh, God.
Yep, and if you decide not to mate with him, he will eat your flesh, unless you actually beat the game and you destroy him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, very taboo for 1995.
Yeah, so it's full FMV. Do you say you're making decisions?
Yeah, kind of. You sort of have to like hit the button.
Choose your... Oh, right. Is it QuickTime events?
QuickTime events. It
right.
would have been QuickTime events, and then once you're not doing that, it's very puzzle solving.
So this was a Sega Saturn game?
Saturn and PlayStation 1.
And on PC.
Oh, was it PC as well?
It what did you call that other... I think Saturn had a couple of games, I guess, where it was like...
Night Trap was one.
FMV, and it was your just basically QuickTime events. There was one about aliens on a ship. There's some woman on a ship.
I didn't really own a Saturn, I'm afraid, so I couldn't even think. I should have researched that. I do apologise.
That's probably a horror game, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like if it's aliens and things like that. Aye. But then same year was actually the start of a big franchise, Clock Tower.
Clock Tower. I do love the Clock Tower games.
I've only ever played the first one, and I didn't even finish it, but I do remember enjoying it and actually genuinely being a bit scared. I was about 10 years old.
The very good thing that the Clock Tower games do is they don't give you any weapons whatsoever.
Nope.
You have no way to defend yourself.
Nope.
And so the first one was on the SNES?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
And PlayStation, I think.
Yeah, I think it was on PlayStation as well. It was like one of those weird in-between generation things. But then, like, You see the little guy with the fucking scissors.
Oh.
Anytime he came, it is genuinely terrifying because you can't do anything and you're scrambling trying to get away from him,
Yep.
and it's all on a 2D plane, like. But yeah, really, really tense because it could come out anywhere.
Yep.
Is it completely unscripted? It
Yep.
is just basically randomly appear and shank you with the scissors.
Yep.
And you could usually either hide, and there were certain things you could set up to get around him in the different rooms. And I vividly remember the jerk ass parrot that would tell him that you're hiding under the bed. Fucking asshole.
I do remember that. Yep. I forgot about that part. You mentioned him. Son of a bitch. That's some evil coding there.
Yep.
Who made it? Was Infogrames, wasn't it? Made Clock Tower, was it?
I'm nearly sure Clock Tower was another Capcom.
Was it Capcom? I don't think it was Capcom. Well, I guess we can
Let
find
me
it.
just-
I should have done more research. Apologies. But yeah, that was 1995, and then obviously 1 year later, the big one,
The big one.
the big one. It's still going strong to this day, and of course we're talking Resident Evil, 1996.
So Clock Tower was Human Entertainment.
Oh, okay. Completely wrong, the two of us then. But 96.
Yeah, so 96.
I think everyone remembers that first time the zombie turns the head.
Oh yeah, that is iconic as hell, and you're probably watching it right now,
Hopefully.
and it probably looks like shit. But back then, it did not look like shit.
It scared the fuck out of you.
It did. I remember not being able to play it
I was the
because
same.
it was just so fucking scary. It was like the zombies was so hard to put down.
And you were never sure if they were actually down permanently
Yeah.
either.
Never had enough ammo.
No.
Never had enough healing items.
Camera angles were against you. The music spooked you out. I mean,
Tank controls.
of course,
Those fucking dogs.
the dogs.
And you all know the dog scene.
Oh, it's another iconic scene, I believe. Yeah,
Now, obviously, they remade this.
they did.
And I'm probably jumping ahead again.
That was so clever, though. I know we can talk remake as well. It's the same game.
But everyone knows the part I'm talking about with the dogs. You're just walking down the corridor and the dog busts through the window.
Yep.
Two dogs in the narrow corridor and scares the living shit out of you.
Yep.
And then the remake, they have the same corridor. You walk down it and there's just a wee tap on the glass and then nothing happens. You're like, oh, they mustn't bother this time. And then you come back through the other way and then it goes off. And I was like, you bastards.
The worst thing was you don't come back that way till maybe like an hour or two later.
Yeah, so you've completely forgotten
It's
about
gone. It's gone from your head, and then I remember jumping out of my skin the second time and cursing Capcom up and down. And then, of course, the remake had the Crimson Heads.
it. Yeah.
Oh, that was scary the first time.
So if you didn't know about their existence, I had it like I'm pretty sure I knew before playing it, but can you imagine not knowing about them? So Crimson Heads, like you put down the zombies, and the bodies don't go away.
I remember.
Which at the time you probably think, oh, they have more power to play with. This is on the GameCube, so they just don't have to get rid of the bodies and they leave them lying there. And then the first time one gets back up and comes tearing at you.
A pistol won't stop it anymore.
I always like trapping that one. You know the room where you get the first map?
Of course.
And there's a part where you can push the cabinet in front of the wee side corridor, and there's
Yep.
one in there, and you can trap him in there. And then every time you come into the room, he comes running up and can't get out.
He's just sort of running at the cabinet.
You're like, hey, guy.
You would stand up in the cabinet and tease him and everything. But honestly, Resident Evil was a huge push for horror, survival horror. And then
So I would say this Resident Evil kicked off I would call it a golden age for horror games,
Oh, big time.
especially survival horror. So it kicked off that real the Japanese survival horror game. The idea of like the fixed camera angles, so many things took from it and borrowed from it. Clock Tower again. You say the Clock Tower 3 came out here. I don't think Clock Tower 2. Clock Tower is one of those games with weird numbering depending on where it was released. But I remember Clock Tower 3 coming out in here for PlayStation 2. Being the same thing, another fantastic game. And then after that, what was it called? It was supposed to be a Clock Tower game, but it wasn't a Clock Tower game.
Yes.
You had a dog with you.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Something Grounds, Haunting Grounds.
Yeah.
That's another one. It's like a bunch of like monsters chasing you, and you have to hide. But this time you got a dog that can help you. That like, I just love the feel of those like Japanese survival horror games. They just get the the creepy setting, the tone, and it's something about tank controls that I love, which I can't explain.
It's because it makes you feel vulnerable, like you just can't escape instantly. You have to sort of work your controls to get away from something.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have the sort of just agility just to go, oh, I'm away. It's like, oh, crap. But obviously Resident Evil went unopposed for like 3 years. I mean, you had Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2, and then...
The best one. Alright, well,
It's, of
anyway,
the classics, as I said, it's the best. And then
up to the year we've got to, it is the best one at the minute.
And then 99... Resident Evil 3 was released, and everyone thought, geez, Resident Evil is going to completely unopposed. And then out of nowhere, Konami decided to dive into the survival horror and released, without doubt, one of the other big daddies of survival
One of my
horror.
favourite game franchises. Maybe my favourite. I'm not sure.
Silent
That's
Hill.
hard to say. Silent Hill.
And it was scary as shit.
And there are some people, not a million miles away from us, that may have thought that it was just a knockoff of Resident Evil and then never played it. But you would maybe be forgiven thinking, oh, this is a Resident Evil clone. But like we said, Resident Evil changed the game. It opened the door for all this sort of stuff to start happening. Some would argue alone in the dark, but they're wrong. It was Resident Evil.
Definitely was.
But Silent Hill did things so much differently. A lot more psychological, fuck with your head stuff. A lot like even the visual design, all the like rusty barbed wire, like medical equipment. Like there's something really creepy about rusty old medical equipment.
I completely agree.
Don't know why. Just old wheelchairs creep me out.
Old wheelchairs. You have a complete phobia of them. We can't take you to the hospital.
But yeah, and I think one thing that Silent Hill absolutely destroys Resident Evil in is storytelling.
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah, obviously. Resident Evil stories were very, evil corporation has created zombies. That's about it, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And Silent Hill is this in-depth character, just... Again, depending on how you play it, depends on what your character does and what he did in his past and things like that. And that's the thing I did love about
there's
Silent
a
Hill.
lot of room for interpretation, and like there's so much thought put into enemy design, where, especially like in the early games, like every enemy has some sort of meaning behind it. It's not some guys just sat down and designed the most disgusting thing you can think of. It's all like, how does this play into the psychology of the main character? And what impact has it? What's deep down in their subconscious that's drawn this out of this weird town that plays on people's fears? And it's just great games. Once again, I'm not sure. I don't think they use tank controls now. They're behind the back. They always were.
They had no fixed camera angles and no tank controls. And I think that was a big change as well between Resident.
It did use some fixed camera angles.
In the buildings.
For effect. I remember the very famously the first Silent Hill, when you first get there, it does the sequence where it's sort of breaking you into what this is going to be. You go through the little alleyways, and then it it changes to fixed camera angles for that added effect. A funny story about one of the Silent Hill games, Silent Hill 4: The Room. I think I've told you this before.
Amazing.
A really good use of fixed camera angles was in the hospital, where you go into one of the rooms and the camera angle is fixed on the door that you just walked in, and you take a step forward and the camera angle suddenly switches, and on the other wall, and I mean that it is the size of the room, it's a big massive woman's head just staring at you.
I remember it scared the fuck out of me.
When I played that, I was playing with Ricky was in the room with me, and the scream he let out, he wasn't even playing the game. Well, I mean, there's a big high-pitched scream when I walk forward. It's fucking hilarious.
Oh, we will have footage of Big Head. We have to have footage of Big Head.
Yeah, definitely.
But I do. The Silent Hill games, they 2, I think, was their pinnacle.
2 is the best one. As well, like from a storytelling point of view, it's just like got this really good. The way it reveals itself as it goes along, you find out about the main character and his relationship with his wife and what's happened and the impact it's had, and it just sort of drip feed you little hints, and then you've got side stories with the other characters about their problems and how all like once again how all the world itself and the enemies you're fighting tie into that story. Just absolute masterpiece.
So yeah, obviously Resident Evil and Silent Hill were now considered the two big daddies and the two big competitors.
I want to point out about one that you haven't considered around the same time. Rule of Rose.
I don't actually have that on the list, I'm afraid. I've heard of it though. I have heard of it.
Yeah, it's one that it was towards the end of PlayStation 2's life, and it was sort of towards the end of this kind of period in horror games where you had the survival horror, and it's about you play this young woman in an orphanage, and it's got these really fucked up kids, and it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. The story's a bit fucked. There's all these real undertones of abuse and shit. It is really creepy as well. It plays a bit shitty, like, but it just nails this sort of atmosphere, and it's worth looking up. If you try to buy it, it's really expensive though.
I would say so. If it's really rare.
Did you mention about Dino Crisis?
Well, it's on. I was going to say around the same time Capcom decided to completely just turn on its head. Same sort of tank controls, same fixed camera angles, but they replaced zombies with velociraptors.
Fuck me.
That was I only ever played the first one, but I do remember shitting myself the first time a velociraptor came tearing out of the grass at me.
That's like a bunch of guys in a room being like, right, zombies, people are just running around these things, they're not scared of them anymore. What do we do? Velociraptors.
No one can run around a velociraptor.
They're not running around that shit.
And they were hard to put down.
They could follow you through fucking doors. The bastards.
That's obviously where they got the idea for Nemesis.
True, yeah, probably.
But around the same time, you also had a couple of other ones. Parasite's Eve.
Oh, Parasite Eve's great. That was
Squaresoft.
Did you remember? Did you ever play the first one?
Never played first, only the second.
So the first is really different. It's got this really weird. It's hard to. Do you remember a Square game called Vagrant Story?
Yes.
So this is a game they did to develop this sort of battle system, which was intended for Vagrant Story, which was a big, massive game they were developing, which is, takes years and years and years in this big, grand story. And they did this game just to sort of get the hang of doing this sort of battle system where you would push a button, it would pause, and like a big sphere would come out, and anything within the sphere you could hit.
Yeah.
So that's how the first Parasite Eve played. And then the second one was basically Square going, right, we need to make a survival horror game like Resident Evil. I really loved it, the second one though. I didn't play the first one. But yeah, it was great. So the whole thing with mitochondria, how do you even explain that?
Oh jeez, I can't even get into it. But the one scene I remembered shitting myself at was I think it's the second mission when you're in like the wee sort of rusty town.
The desert town, yeah.
Aye, and you just hear that screaming.
Oh, it's like a woman constantly screaming.
And it just won't stop for ages. And
it's in a room you can't get to, so your whole thing is trying to get to this room.
And then when you get in there, there's just like this. It's like a super gimp. It's just ripping her to pieces and then transforms her into this fucking creature. And
so that's the mitochondria. That's apparently in the game that the mitochondria mutate and turn people into monsters, and it happens. And the character you play, Aya, is part of this team that goes and cleans this shit up. And she's also got mutated mitochondria, which gives her powers. So that's the difference in this game. It's got more of an RPG aspect to it, where you have stats and you can level up things. And you have powers, but you also have guns as well. And it also had a really sort of in-depth upgrade system for guns.
It did.
To replace parts and stuff, which is really cool. I really want to play that now.
Hopefully we get that. But in regards to the horror side of things, it wasn't the same level as the likes of Silent Hill and Resident Evil. It wasn't as, oh shit, I'm scared to go through
No,
this.
it was a bit more action-y.
And then obviously action is what we're going to sort of lead into, because Resident Evil was getting a wee bit stale. And Capcom kind of knew it, and they turned to the man himself, Mr. Shinji Mikami, and he decided, hey, I've got this mad idea.
Let's ruin Resident Evil.
Let's make the next Resident Evil. We'll turn fucking Leon into a superhero.
I can't say that. You fucking love this game.
I do love Resident Evil 4.
I like this game as well. This is Resident Evil 4 is a really, really, really good game.
Yes.
It's not what I want out of a Resident Evil game.
Exactly. If Resident Evil 4 was called another name, it would be perfect.
Yeah. A lot of people still say it is a perfect game.
It's as a game, yes, but it's not very Resident Evil. There's no point where you're going, oh shit.
It's not what I went to Resident Evil 4.
Exactly. And unfortunately, because Resident Evil 4 was a huge success, a lot of other games started following suit. And we started getting games like Silent Hill Downpour.
Oh god. See, even before you get to Silent Hill Down, this is a whole other thing we could go through about Konami and their downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should do a different episode of this
we'll
on that alone. But so this got to the point where like first 4 games are like proper. This is Silent Hill. They play the Silent Hill way. They got that atmosphere, and then for some reason they start farming out Silent Hill to other developers, specifically Western developers, and like it just never. It went downhill from there. So you had Silent Hill Homecoming.
Yeah, I played that one.
Which is bad.
It's not great, no.
I think they tried to do sort of a Silent Hill 2 thing with the the way you're like looking for your little brother, and then at the end it turns out, oh, you killed him.
Yep.
It's like, oh well, where'd you get that from? And then Downpour. What the fuck was that?
A worse again. Did you ever play that one, Book of Memories?
No.
Jesus Christ.
Was that on the PSP or something?
Yeah, it's
like
a top-down fucking thing. I was just slap the Silent Hill name onto something. That's what that was.
Yeah. Poor Silent Hill.
Silent Hill and even Resident Evil itself. I mean, 5 and 6. They just
became action games.
They did, aye. And it's the horror itself. But then there was one franchise that decided, hey, I like this behind the shoulder thing. Let's do it in space.
Just before you get that, Ninja behind us he is in the room and he just held up 4 fingers. I will give 4 one thing. It did try to hold on to some Resident Evil stuff with weird keys and shit and things like that. Mm-hmm. But then from 5 onwards, they just sort of went, nah, let's just. Especially 6 is just.
6 is not Resident Evil at all. The first
Chris
maybe
punches a boulder in half. What the?
That's 5. That's 5.
Yeah, that's what I meant. 5 like.
In 6 he wrestles a snake. An invisible snake wrestles it.
In the first one, you were barely staying alive against a snake.
Yeah.
And
in the first one, you came across a zombie and you shat yourself. And then in Resident Evil 6, Leon's fucking gun carrying fucking 20 zombies, no bother to him. The weird thing is, as an action game, it's great, but it is the furthest thing from Resident Evil. It's not Resident Evil.
So around the same time when that happened, a horror game came out on the GameCube as well.
Oh yes,
another one besides Resident Evil 4 was Eternal Darkness.
Oh yes.
Now that was a great game. It was more traditional survival horror with tank control, sort of fixed camera angles, but it also had like a sanity mechanic.
Oh, so good.
And as you like took damage and stuff, your sanity would go down, and it would start doing weird things like the camera angle would be slightly tilted to things like it throwing up a message saying your save file's just been deleted, or it making it look like it was turning down
the volume.
Oh,
fuck, I remember freaking out the first time.
And then there's the bathtub one in it, one of the most famous jump scares in games, I think.
Everyone got with that one.
It kind of played on, way in Resident Evil they'd always have bathtubs, you pull the plug out and you're always expecting something to happen. Yep. Nothing ever did, and they were like, right, here you go. It's like fucking screaming at you.
Oh man, I remember I actually genuinely screamed. I did genuinely scream when that happened. My ma was like, what are you doing in there? I was like, no. But Eternal Darkness was a belter. And that was kind of, what was that sort of the last of the really great tank controlled horror games?
I mean, like I said, that there's sort of stuff like Rule of Rose and really obscure stuff around the end there, but
well, as we were saying with the fall of Resident Evil and Silent Hill, Dead Space came out.
Dead Space was really good.
It was brilliant. It was, let's do the action thing, still keeping a high tech horror.
Yeah, it was really good. It was horror, going for a real body horror, like Cronenberg-esque sort of,
That was
or like The Thing. Just really good design of those. What do you call them again?
necromorphs.
Necromorphs, yeah.
Mm.
And that eyeball thing.
Oh, Jesus.
Everyone knows the eyeball thing.
I failed the first time.
Yeah.
I think everyone did.
I hope that's footage you're using right
Oh,
now.
I hope so. I hope we got that.
Look at that eyeball thing.
Look at it! Oh! But obviously, Dead Space 1 and 2 absolutely brilliant. Dead Space 3 is considered sort of the weakest of them all. It removed the horror. It went full action.
Full on action game.
So even the smaller franchises, they all sort of fell victim to this. And this is what you'd so sort of call the decline of the horror. You know, horror was sort of getting booted out for more.
Yeah, by
action.
that sort of, I think like you just go post Resi 4, it really starts to dry up, and everyone wants to be the super action hero shooting guns at that point. It's a very sort of Xbox 360 era type of thing. It's just the way games went at the time.
And then these wee indie games started coming out. And I think the first one I remember hearing about was Slender.
Yeah, there's Slender, there's... I can't think of any more right now.
There was a couple based on that whole legend thing. This idea of a first person sort of you can't attack in any game.
So they went the Clock Tower route and said, let's not give you any weapons. What's the one again? The sequel's called Machine for Pigs.
Amnesia.
Amnesia.
Yes, it's on the list here.
I think that's the first really big one that did that. No weapons. You gotta hide.
Yep.
And you gotta solve all these puzzles.
The first Amnesia first Amnesia was brilliant. So it was. The sequel, The Machine for Pigs, wasn't considered as good, and I have to admit it wasn't. Didn't have the same atmosphere. But the first one, it was fantastic. But I think a game that done it even better, which came out a couple of years later, was Outlast.
Outlast.
Freaky as fuck.
They had that mechanic of giving you a night vision camera, which needed batteries.
Yep. Yeah, that was terrifying.
So it was like introducing like still the no weapon type of thing. You have to hide from enemies, you have to run, but then also adding in the resource management of a Resident Evil by giving you a resource.
Just a single resource, but it was, oh man, like
which you needed to see.
Yes. You literally could not see without this.
Like, it's not like you can't fight anyway. No, it's like we're gonna take away the ability to see things.
I still remember playing Outlast, and the worst thing that ever happened to me was I was being chased. I hid under a bed. I had turned the camera off to save batteries, and I waited for a couple of minutes thinking I was safe, and I turned the fucking camera on, and right in front of me was just the guy just shouted at me as soon as he seen the light came on the camera, and I fucking jumped out of my skin. I don't think I've turned it on since.
Oh.
But that obviously led up to the one and only, long but not forgotten PT.
PT, which wasn't even a game.
Wasn't even a game. It was a fucking incredible demo.
Yeah.
Which should have been...
Wasn't even a demo. It was a teaser.
It was a teaser.
For a completely different game. That wasn't going to play like that game.
No. It was giving us all high hopes for the return of Silent Hill. It really was.
Yeah, so obviously this was the playable teaser for
Silent Hills. We'll never know why it was called Hills. We'll never know.
Nope. I have an inkling. Because Silent Hill has always expanded beyond just that one town. So, but yeah, that was supposed to star Norman Reedus and be directed by Hideo Kojima.
With Del Toro as well.
With Benicio Del Toro doing something. Probably monster design, because he's real fucking good at that.
He is real down. Oh, can you imagine a Silent Hill designed by him?
It was like perfect, and one other person was going to be involved.
Who was it? Who?
Junji Ito, the horror writer, the manga guy, who's fucking like, you want to see his designs. He does some fucked up shit. He's really, really good at it.
So potentially we could have one of the greatest horror games ever made.
Yeah, you were like just putting together. Here's your dream team to make a horror game.
Yeah. Oh man.
And then they just pulled the plug.
Yeah. For a reason I'm never going to be too sure of. Never. But obviously, Capcom seen the first person thing was kind of a winner. And they decided, hey, everyone at this stage decided Resident Evil after 6 was dead. It was like, yep, Resident Evil needs to retire. And Capcom went, nah, fuck yous, we've got an idea. And they unleashed Resident Evil 7. And what a fucking game that was.
I just finished this last week.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It is basically an old school resi game with a fresh sort of look by using the first person camera.
It feels very classic resi.
It does, yeah. It very much does. Just the panic inducing fucking first person
The fucking Bakers are some of the greatest antagonists in a horror game in a long time.
They're great. They are, really are.
I fucking destroyed that game.
Yeah, and then just he played the shit out of that.
I think I've only played through it twice. I must try and do the hardest mode.
I mean, he was in the room when I was playing it last week, and I finished it over 2 days. Like constantly just talking while because that's what I do when I'm
Nervous,
tense, and scared. I just start saying stupid shit.
You have to.
And he's sitting over there listening to me talk shit about Resident Evil. And I don't think I ever screamed though.
Worst boss I still think is Spider Vag Granny.
I killed her really easily for some reason, somehow.
But was she not just freaky
It's fucking
looking?
disgusting.
Yep. Oh man, that's it. I remember the first time she came busting through the wall at me. You know when you're about to go up the wee steps and she comes through the window.
Yeah.
I remember looking at her going, "With her arms, is her character model went funny?" And then I was like, "No, she's actually mutated." Oh Jesus Christ!
I knew the first time when you look back down the hole. You know the hole she knocks you down just before the boss fight?
Yeah.
Did you ever look back down?
No.
So when you come back, you look down, you see her lantern, and you see a hand just reach out, grab it, and take it back.
I've never looked
Oh,
down.
you never saw
Oh,
it?
shit.
And I was like, you have to go down there. I don't want to go down there.
Fuck that.
That's down there. And you can see that it's an elongated arm at that point.
Oh man. But I do solidly believe that Resident Evil 7 solidified that it's back on the map and it doesn't need to retire as of yet.
Yeah, it's all about reinventing, and like keeping the core of your franchise, but also adding new shit to keep it fresh that doesn't detract away from what attracted people to it in the first place.
Now Shinji Mikami obviously went on to make a series of his own once he left Capcom, The Evil Within.
Now, I haven't played these, but I really think I should.
The first one is okay. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. The first one, it's got a great horror feel to it, but it can be very frustrating because it's got some dodgy controls in places.
Okay.
The second one is a much better game. It's kind of like what would happen. The best way I describe The Evil Within 2 is if Silent Hill and Resident Evil had a baby.
Right.
It's basically this fucked up town, but it's sort of got the more Resident Evil sort of zombie classic monster feel to it.
Yeah, so that sounds
open world as well.
interesting to me.
It's a game, I think it's going quite cheap at the moment, but it's a game I would recommend if you're a horror fan that you sit down and you play. But obviously this is obviously, we've done a very quick history of the horror games, and obviously the last thing we're going to talk about is where the horror games are going. What's next for horror games? What
So
can
a recent, I don't know if you have this down there, this is just me thinking off the top of my head, but a recent thing that's come up is multiplayer horror.
Yes, that is a big thing at the minute.
So you have a game you really love, which
there's
is
two big games out there at the moment that are doing this. One is absolutely really successful, and the other one's fell apart in its face. One is Friday the 13th, the game, which has just fell to bits because of a whole argument between owners of the Jason character. So the game is just gone.
So you can't buy it anymore?
I don't know if you can actually buy it at the moment. If you bought it, you can play it, but there's no more updates, and that game is still buggy as hell. And the other one, obviously, the big one, which is actually still doing very well, is Dead by Daylight. But I was actually thinking about this. As Dead by Daylight, great game and all, but I don't know if it's still got that great horror feel to it.
What?
AVP?
Alien versus Predator?
Freaky's a multiplayer.
No, there's Alien in Isolation, actually. We forgot to mention that very
Oh
quickly.
yeah, that's another one of those.
Another first-person.
Well, you do have weapons in that, but they're useless, aren't they?
Oh, against the alien, yeah.
Yeah.
The other enemies, not so much, but the alien, you cannot damage that thing.
Yeah.
And if the alien comes tearing at you and sees you, there's no way you're getting away from it.
That game's so tense.
It is very tense, especially when you hear the beep 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 beep
Yeah.
beep beep. Yeah,
Stressful.
Forgot to mention that. We'll get quick footage of that up as well. But Dead by Daylight's obviously the big one, but I don't think it has that great horror feel. It's got a good idea, the mechanic, the killer's unstoppable, and you get hung on the hook and things like that. But once you get playing the game for a while and you can figure out the nooks and crannies of the game, the horror feel goes away. Maybe your first hour of playing it is really, really tense, But I suppose that's the same way any horror game, really. Once you play Resident Evil a couple of times, you know the ins and outs of the game.
Yeah, and obviously you're relying on humans,
You're relying. That's the thing. If you get a good killer,
actual people.
yeah, if you get a good killer, then the game can be very tense. But if you get a guy who's maybe just started playing it for the first time and he's not sure what's actually going on, you just run through the game and yeah,
Or just a bunch of trolls.
you can get a bunch of trolls as well, sadly. But obviously, the last one I think we should probably mention was the big reveal of the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh yeah,
That's going to be a big one.
it looks really good.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, they've gone third person again, but they're so tight in behind the character that it's still got that sort of feel of Resident Evil 7. I say feel, I've fucking played it, but it looks like it feels like that.
It's,
If
I
that
think
makes sense.
The corridors are so thin as well. There's nowhere to sort of, I'm under attack here, I can run around these guys. No, if you're in a room with one zombie, I think you're in trouble.
Yeah, they haven't shown Mr. X yet, have they?
They haven't,
They've
no.
shown Birkin,
Yeah,
who was chasing after Claire,
Claire. Down in like a basement or something.
which, if I remember, didn't happen.
No.
No.
Sure, the police station now has like 4 floors.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All the rules gone out the window. I wonder, is it still going to have the 2 scenarios that you can chop and change? So you basically get 4 playthroughs.
Yeah, they have confirmed that's a thing, and they've also
Okay.
confirmed Hunk and Tofu are in the game as well.
Nice.
They're back. But yeah, that's
That's it.
a quick history of horror games, and hopefully this has been informative and entertaining to you.
And let's all annoy Konami to make Silent Hill.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's bring back.
They should
Silent
do
Hill.
a Streets of Rage 4 and just like license it to someone who wants to make it. Do that. You
100%.
don't have to do anything. Just license the name out.
Yep.
And someone will make it.
Yeah, give it the what do you call them?
All those indie developers try to make their own PT, so like just fucking do it.
That's true. There's been so many sort of what's the love letters to PT. It's been unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was for walking down a corridor over and over and over again. It was fucking terrifying.
True.
Yeah, that's a good way to finish. Actually, PT, the game we never got to play.
Not even a game, and it changed the game.
Not even a game, and it changed the game. That is a nice sentence to finish on. Well, thanks for joining us, folks, and hopefully you've enjoyed this little video, and we'll hopefully have more episodes for you coming soon.
Cheerio.
Bye for now.
Spooky.